We always like to celebrate and highlight the creativity in the Solent area, and we always like it if it's something a little bit different too. So today, he's in my running order as the Biro Man. I'm joined by Cy Baker from Netley, an award-winning biro artist. Not something you necessarily would think of as an artistic tool, but the work Cy's brought in with him, I can tell you, instantly puts paid to that notion. How are you, Cy?
I'm very well. Thank you very much for having me.
It's lovely to see you. I mean, we're calling you the Biro Man there. Is this your preferred medium, or do you work in a range of different stuff in your career?
It's pretty much, in my career, I've worked in a range of medium, but biro is pretty much all I use now.
See, and how does this start? Because people listening, and I was exactly the same, will think back to doodling in school, time wasting basically, procrastination I was very good at school, and cartooning particularly, because it's a black line on a white bit of paper, so it's great for cartoons. But your work goes way beyond that. So how do you get into it?
Well, it's always drawing. It's funny you should mention school, because I've always loved drawing ever since I was like 5 years old. And I also like working as big as I can. And I've experimented with lots and lots of different medias, and just saw a biro by the side of the canvas one day and picked it up, and that was it. That was about 10 years ago, and I've not really looked back ever since. It's just a brilliant tool. And
so you've sort of taken it, this is your number one now for the work that you do.
Yeah, I mean, it's pretty much, I mean, I do oil paintings for commissions, but generally speaking, 95% of the work I do now is in biros.
So I was wondering, before you came in and before you brought this fantastic example of your work with you, which I will do my best to describe in a moment, whether it was all sort of line work, which I don't know, you might disagree with this description, but almost sort of like impressionist stuff where it's lines sort of far apart and close together, and there's a word for that effect, and I can't think what it is.
Hatching, is that?
It might be, with the sort of strobing effect that goes with it, maybe a little bit. But it's not. You seem to have used, for this fantastic picture of is that a leopard cub we've got there?
It is, yeah.
So Cy's brought within this leopard cub on canvas. What's that? That's about 4x4, is it? Something like that?
It's 50 centimetres by 50
50 by 50. Sorry, I was using the wrong.
Yeah, no,
I think I was using feet, which was a really stupid method to do it. But my word, at first glance, I'm looking at it from a couple of metres away, and you'd say, oh, that's a pencil drawing. But then as you look a bit closer at it, it's incredibly textured. The way the light bounces off it shows that it's not purely pencil. It's something in the way that the biro's worked with. Is it it's a normal canvas?
It's on unprimed canvas, so it needs to be unprimed, because if the primer's on there, then it won't take the pen. But yeah, it's just on unprimed canvas, and then I just draw it like I would with anything else, really. Although obviously the biro needs a slightly different technique, but effectively you draw and you shade as you would with a pencil in a way. But you, rather than pushing down harder, you angle the pen to get different ink flows with it.
Well, that's it. It's the angles, because I can see the sort of, so that we've got this young leopard cub here with some grass in front of him, some leaves, and some jungle or trees behind him, and the light just in there in the studio is catching the leaves at such an angle that they glisten. Which is incredible. And that's what you're talking about when you use the biro at a different angle.
Yeah. So effectively, if you angle it to the canvas, you get less ink coming out. And also, if you hold the pen, because I work on an easel, so it's a vertical piece of work. So if you hold the pen up the wrong way, if that makes sense, then you get less pen out. So you can vary the angle that you hold the pen to get a different flow of ink. So it's really just learning the technique.
Yeah, it makes, because as I say, when you look at it, you think, oh, that's probably like a pencil drawing, but then you realise it's ink and realise the sort of different textures that are coming out of it is quite incredible. We'll take a picture of that, and I'll do my best to make sure it's a picture that shows that off. But you can see Cy's work on his website. It's CY, by the way, cybaker.co.uk. What sort of market is there for exhibiting and indeed selling biro art? Now you're making a name with this.
Yeah, not too bad. I mean, I go to various shows. I mean, I've got the New Forest show coming up, and then I'm at Hampshire Open Studios at Great Abshot Barn in the end of August. So I go to various shows. Funny enough, the Leopard Cub is done for a big exhibition that I've got coming up in the Mall Galleries in London, which is my first solo exhibition, which is through David Shepherd's Wildlife Foundation, because they raise money for sort of conservation causes, and the leopard we saw in Uganda. So they do some extraordinary work. So we went out there and saw this leopard while we were out in Uganda. So they do some brilliant things. So the exhibition's on in September, the 12th to the 16th of September, in the Mad Galleries to raise money for more incredible work.
Fantastic. And the fact you saw, I mean, so how do you work then if you were on that tour in Uganda? You have to get as many photos as you can, don't you?
Yeah, I did do some work while I was out there, some sketches and things like that. But yeah, you rely on taking photos, and so I always work for my own photos. That's a bit of a thing for me. I always want to make sure that I use my own stuff. And you can sometimes it'll be about 30 different photos that will go in to create a piece, or if it's a simpler piece, then it will just be a single photo.
And looking at your website, wildlife is obviously important to you, because the ones that you've used to demonstrate the biro art, we've got, is that a drake, I think there? And it's not, or a duck rather.
Oh, that's a coot. That's a coot.
Yes. I knew I wasn't going to find the right word. Bird that goes on water. It's a coot in this particular one. And trees and sort of landscapes. That's where your inspiration is.
It's the natural world, definitely. I mean, I will draw just about anything, and I've done portraits, landscapes, wildlife. I will draw anything. It's really drawing that I love, but I also love the natural world. I love being out in nature. My wife and I go for long walks, and I get a lot of inspiration from the New Forest and local places around here as well. So even the back garden, you don't have to go to Uganda to see some amazing stuff. You can get it in the back garden. So
there's some good stuff in Netley. It's fair to say.
Yeah, no, absolutely. Yeah, Victoria Country Park. I've done a few artworks there.
On that 50 by 50 baby leopard, how many biros did you get through roughly? Because that's more than the ink of just one standard bic, I think.
Funnily enough, no, because a standard bic has about 2 miles of line in it.
Is that right?
Yeah. Well, I haven't tested it, obviously.
They'd be interested to see how you would do that.
Yeah, no,
along with the wallpaper,
but
maybe.
According to them, you get about 2 miles of line. The pen that I use is a Colourfast one that's from a different manufacturer, which I think has probably a bit less. So you're looking at about 1 mile to 1.5 miles of line.
So you could have done all that with one biro?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, I mean,
wow.
that one was probably slightly less than a single biro, I would guess. But I've done some big pieces that are 2 meters wide, which took 9 biros.
Oh, blimey. Yeah,
so it varies very much, really.
I have many more questions, and also I'm going to get a biro art lesson from Sai.
I'm looking forward to it.
She's going to get a little bit beyond me trying to draw Homer Simpson when I was wasting time in geography lessons about 30 years ago. Potentially a diplomatic incident in the studio where I'm joined by biro artist Sai Baker from Netley, who's brought some of his amazing biro work with him, and you can see it on his website, but we've given him a blue biro, and as you've just said to me off air, Si, you really only work in the medium of black.
I know, shocking.
We need a black biro in the studio, please. It's not going to work with blue. Currently in the studio with me is artist from Netley, the biro man, Si Baker, as he will now forever be known. Already was, though, from his skills because of a biro art. You're going to give me an exercise to do while Jordan reads the sports side to prove that biro art is something that could go properly mainstream. Do you think it could become something that people just don't get sniffy about, in the way that when you hear it you think, well, that's not an arty thing?
Oh, well, possibly. I mean, I don't know. I mean, there is a lot of sniffiness around in the art world, isn't there? But I think I believe that the art should speak for itself, no matter what you use to create it. So it doesn't really matter. It's just how good the end product is.
And clearly from the work you've brought that we'll get up online for people to see, and you can see on the website, it is. So I've got a very thin nibbed black biro.
Okay.
Here, and I've got a less thin nibbed blue biro. Now, you're not a fan of the blue, as we have discovered.
Oh, it's fine, isn't it? I mean, I use a black in my artwork, but the ink comes out the same way, so it's fine. The experience will be the same in terms of drawing. Okay,
so I'm going to go with the blue then in this case. What are we going to do exactly?
Well, I thought you might want to try an eye.
An eye?
An eye.
Oh,
so
okay.
just try and draw an eye. So I thought we'd just try. You can try an animal's eye, or you could try doing the leopard's eye over there, or you could do a human eye.
So we're going to try an eye, and I will try Sai. It's gone a bit Dr. Seuss now, hasn't it? It's a bit like a school exercise. I'm sure I remember doing faces and eyes in art lessons at school.
Yeah, probably. Yeah.
And it's lots of different shades and things as well.
Yes, so you've got the white of the eye, you've got the highlight on the eye, which is really important.
Okay.
And then obviously you've got the darkness of the pupil.
Okay, so I'll I attempt a bit of biro art, I don't think this is going to end up on a website like yours with a price tag attached to it. So I'm attempting an eye for the task that my biro-based artist, Si, has given me. And I'm worried, Si, already that I've just not used enough of the paper. I haven't. If you'd got a whole canvas and you started with an eye as small as that in the middle, then you'd think, well, I've just not. What a waste of that money I've spent on that canvas, albeit a bit of A4 paper in my case.
You just add extra bits around the outside. That's all it is. Room for extra creativity.
You mean I'm going to need a nose and a mouth and things to go with it? We're doing a bit of biro art live in the studio with Si Baker, award-winning biro artist from Netley, who set me the challenge of doing an eye with my blue biro on my bit of A4. He's been doing similar on the other side of the desk. Now, this is what I came up with, Si. I think I have basically done a cartoon eye in the way that I learnt to doodle in the margin of my A4 pad when I was at school. And that is, I've almost done that some like muscle memory. There's not a lot of shading there. It's a cartoon one, I think.
No, it's good. I think it's good. More importantly, though, how did you find doing it? Did you enjoy it?
I did enjoy it, only because I just don't do very much sketching. I can sketch in a sort of cartoony way.
Yeah.
And it never looks like I want it to look like in my head. But then you as an artist, you've got that brilliant biro baby leopard picture we talked about earlier on. Does that look exactly like you thought it would do in your head when you did it?
It never normally works out exactly as you expect it to. So you can... I think it's always a bit of a give and take. You know, you have to let the picture go where it wants to go as much as enforce the way you want it to look. So it's always a bit of a conversation, I always say. Okay.
Can I see yours? Because I haven't seen it yet. So, okay, well, that's an eye, isn't it? Now, that's not a human eye.
No. I went for an animal eye. I love doing eyes. They just breathe life into whatever you're doing. So eyes are always interesting.
But where we've both done the same thing in a different way, and I'm not calling myself an artist at any level, but you've got the reflective bit of light in the eye next to the pupil, and that's what I tried to do with that little dot there. Do you see the reflective bit of light?
Yes. Yeah. No, absolutely. No, because we talked about that, didn't we? But the light is it makes everything really.
And do you like my eyebrow, by the way? I wanted to show that I could do some shading, so I did a shady eyebrow.
It is an exceptionally good eyebrow, there's no doubt.
Well, you can enjoy that on social media later as it was getting filmed while we were doing it. Have a look at Si's website, sibaker.co.uk, if you're still wondering how art works with a biro. I can tell you some of the ones that you'll see on there will make you realise actually what a great tool it can be. I'm turned around on the subject. Si Baker, what a pleasure. Thanks for coming into BBC Radio Solent.
Thank you very much. It's been a joy.